Hi everyone, this is Anjali. Welcome to the channel. So today we are going to do looping in Python. So when you work in Python, you can repeat certain set of statements for a given number of times or till a condition is true without writing that statement that many number of times. That is what we mean by looping in any programming language, right? So looping basically means that I have a set of statements which I want to be executed again and again, right? So you need those statements to be executed multiple times, but you don't want to write that multiple times. You just want that you write it once, but it is executed more than once. And that is done with the help of iterative statements, or we simple call them loops, right? So iterative statements or repetitive statements, you can call them. And in simple terms, we just call it loop, right? Now, in Python, we have only two loops available, that is for and while. Now, whenever I know that I have to repeat for a given number of times, let's say I have to repeat for 5 times, I have to repeat for 10 times, I would prefer a for loop because for loop works on numbers. Like I have to go from here till here, right? So that's why whenever we know that we have to repeat for certain numbers or we need to repeat for a fixed number of times, we prefer using a for loop. Whereas while is a keyword which has a condition with it, like we give condition with if, we can give condition with while as well. Now, if you give a condition with while and it's true, the statements inside that block are executed, but it doesn't end there. Like if checks a condition, true executes, otherwise go to the next statement, right? But here it doesn't happen that way. It checks a condition. If the statements are, if the condition is true, statements are executed, and then it checks the condition again and it keeps on checking it till it becomes false. That's how it repeats. So whenever I don't know that how many times I have to repeat, but yes, I have a condition, and if the condition is true, I'm supposed to repeat it. If the condition is false, I'm not supposed to repeat it. I have to stop there. So there you're going to use while loop. Okay. So we have two loops, for and while. I'll show you the syntax. Now this thing basically comes in your class 11 syllabus where you start learning loops. If you want to learn loops in detail, I have already told you that you can refer to the class 11th playlist, or you can refer to the 100 programs challenge, Python 100 plays programming challenge playlist. There you will get number of questions to practice on loops. But right now, since it is for class 12th, we are focusing on what is important for class 12th, right? So you might get a question where a loop is being used, and you are supposed to tell the output of that, or you have to write a code for functions and file handling where the thing requires a loop to be there. So you should know like what a loop is. So we're going to cover up to that level here. So first of all, when I talk about for loop, how do we write it? So we write the keyword for, then you write name of any variable, whatever name you can write, like a, n, num, val, whatever you want. So for variable in, and usually we have a function here which is range. So for a variable in range, and inside the bracket of range I have to give a value. Let's say if I give a value as 5, so that means the statements given inside the loop are going to work for 5 times. You have to put a colon here since we are starting a block, and in Python whenever you start a block there must be a colon at the end, right? This you must remember, because again the question can be asked in error finding questions, and you have to know that there has to be a colon and all the statements of the loop are indented. So after the indentation, the statements which you give, that forms the body of the loop. So it will execute this set of statements for 5 times. For example, if I write for a in range 5 colon and I write print Python. So what it will do, it will print Python 5 times on the screen. It will print Python 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So it will print like that. Now the catch over here is that this range can be used in various other formats as well. So when I'm writing range 5, it's okay, whatever you write inside will be repeated for 5 times, but how exactly is it working? So if I try to write down a code where I write for I in range 5 and I print something, so that will be printed 5 times. But rather than printing a fixed value, if I print A, then what happens? So it is going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically range 5 generates a list of numbers from 0 to 4, right? So it always starts from 0 by default, and the upper limit is excluded. So if you're given upper limit as 5, it's not going to take that. It is going to work for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it will work one less than that. Now in this range, again, I have two more options to write it, where I can also give the starting point. Like if I write 2 comma 6 and then I write print A. So this time it's not going to start from 0, because now you have told from where to start and where we should end. So when it's a single number given in range, that basically tells where we have to end. So we have to stop one before that. And if you're giving two numbers, so the numbers represent start and stop. So I'm going to start from 2, 3, 4, 5. It will not work for 6, right? It always works one less than that. So it will start from 2. By default, it will increase by 1 automatically. So if it was 2, it becomes 3, it becomes 4, from 4 it becomes 5. Here also it was increasing by 1 every time. So that's why we also call for as an auto increment loop. So this can be asked in an MCQ, where they can ask you which of the following loop is called as auto increment loop. So for is the loop, for is the keyword, which is also called as auto increment loop, because it increases the counter by 1 automatically. But there might be chances, there might be a situation where I don't have to increase it by 1. I want to increase it by some other number. So if I want to increase it by some other number, I should be able to write for A in range. Let's say I give 2 comma 10 comma 2. So what will happen in this case? We'll start from 2, right? Then instead of increasing by 1, it will increase by 2. So 2 plus 2, 4. 4 plus 2, 6. 6 plus 2, 8. It will not print 10 because upper limit is never included. If I would have given 2 comma 10 comma 3, so I'll get 2. 2 plus 3, 5. 5 plus 3, 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. That will not come because that's beyond the range. So that's how we can tell how we have to repeat. That's the purpose of range in the loops. In case you want to go in negative order, you can do that also. So for A in range, I can write 5, comma 0, comma minus 1. So 1 is by default. It increases by 1 by default. But if you have to decrease by 1, you need to write minus 1 in the step. Otherwise, it won't work. So it's 5, minus 1 will be 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you reach 0, it stops, right? If I would have written 5, comma 1, then it will print only up to 2. So this is what you must know, that how the loop works, how the values are fetched from range. This is how values are fetched from range. Another option of using a for loop would be if I have a list or I have a string. For example, if I write for A in and then I give this. We haven't discussed list yet in this series, but otherwise, if you remember a bit from your 11th standard, so any set of values given in square brackets is said to be a list. And if you do anything here with A, so for A in and then you have list, so automatically the loop will work for the number of times the values you have in the list. So I have 4 values in the list. So loop is going to work for 4 times. First of all, A will be 10, then A will be 20, A will be 30, A will be 40. Similar way, if you have string, for example, I write for ch in double quotes, I write Anjali. And I write print ch. So it's going to print A N J A L I. So it will fetch one character at a time from the string like this. So we can use range, we can use a list, we can use a string. So it will just go one by one for all the values. And inside the loop, whatever processing is written, you can work on it, right? So that's how we write for loop. For example, if I tell you that there is a list called num and we have certain numbers in this. Now, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to print only those values from the list which are even. So I can take a loop, let's say for val in num. So for val in num means in this variable val, I'm going to pick one value at a time from this list. So when the loop will work for the first time, val will be 18. When the loop will work for the second time, it will be 20. When it will work for the third time, it will be 15. But I'm not printing them all of now. I'm just printing those which are even. And so I can put a condition here that if val mod 2 is equal to 0, so print val. So I'm printing only when the remainder is coming out to be 0. So if val mod 2 is equal to 0, that means the number is even, print it, otherwise don't print it. So the output in this case would be 18, 20, 16, 32. It is not going to print the odd numbers. So you might get a code to write like this in functions, or the code is given, you're supposed to write the output of this. So that's how you have to understand what for loop is doing over here, right? So that's how we use for loop in Python. The second loop is while. While, and then you have to put a condition with the while keyword. And we have colon, again, indented statements. So these indented statements are there. These statements will be repeated till your condition is true. So till my condition is true, it will keep on repeating the set of statements, right? As it becomes false, it will stop. At times, they can ask you this also, that how can you make an infinite loop? So if I just write the Boolean value true here, for Boolean value true, the T has to be capital. So it's while true. T is capital, right? So this means that this loop is always true. It will never stop. It's an infinite loop. It will keep on working forever. Now you would be thinking, if it's working forever, how would the execution stop? So if you know, write down in the comments. Let's see how many of you know that which statement is used to terminate a loop in between. If I want to stop the loop in between, which statement can I use? Till then, let me show you that how can I print numbers from 1 to 5 using a while loop. So I can have n is equal to 1 like this. So we need to have an initialization, and then we have to give a condition. So I write while n is less than equal to 5. I'm going to print the value of n, and it's very important that I increase the value of n, because while is not an auto increment loop, right? So while is not an auto increment loop. Since it's not an auto increment loop, it's not going to increase of its own. Okay, so here we have to write n plus equal to 1 if I want it to increase by 1. If I don't write it, it's not going to increase it by 1 automatically. So we have to make sure that we increase it of our own, right? So this is n is 1. 1 less than equal to 5 is true. It will print 1. This statement will make your n 2. 2 less than equal to 5 is true, so it will print 2. N becomes 3. It prints 3. It prints 4. It prints 5. When it becomes 6, it becomes false and it comes out. That's how your while loop works, right? Now, I asked you which statement is used to terminate the loop. Using which statement you can stop the loop in between and come out of the loop. Yes, the correct answer is break. So ever if I have a loop and I want to stop the loop in between, we use a break statement. So we have three keywords. One is break, one is continue, and one is pass. So you must know what are the purpose of these three keywords. So break, continue, pass in small letters, these are the keywords. If you use break inside a loop, it terminates the loop. The loop will not work further. So it terminates the loop. So no further iteration is executed after the break statement is executed. In continue, only the current iteration is terminated and it goes to execute the next iteration. So if the loop has to work for 10 times, it's going to work for 10 times for sure. But if there are statements following the continue keyword inside the loop, they will be skipped and it moves on to the next one. Pass is nothing. It does not do anything. So whenever you need a filler, like you need to write a statement, but you actually don't want to do anything, so we write pass over there. Means just do that. Sometimes, like if I have a condition, like if I check if num mod 2 is equal to 0, if it's even, I don't have to do anything. But if it is odd, I have to do something. So I can write pass, else I can write print num. So it will print the odd number, right? Obviously, you could do it the other way. You can write num mod 2 equal to 1. That is also there. But just for an example, I'm showing you that you can do it this way, right? Let me give you an example of break and continue now. For example, I have a loop for a in range 6, comma 15, and we check if a mod 5 is equal to 0, break. And then I have print a. How would it work? So it's going from 6 to 14. First of all, it's 6. 6 mod 5 is 0. No, it's printed. 7 mod 5 is 0. No. 8, 9. When comes 10, 10 mod 5 is 0. Condition is true. Since the condition is true, it will break. It will come out of the loop. That's it. Nothing is printed after. So loop is terminated. Nothing at all will be printed after that. This is your result. That's it. It stops here. But if it would have been continue instead of this, so instead of break, if it was continue, then what will happen? I'll get 6, 7, 8, 9. On 10, it will go up again, right? 10 will not be printed. The following statement will be skipped. It will go up again. It will become 11. So 11, 12, 13, 14 will be printed. For 15, we don't have to work otherwise also because that's the last value. So we're not supposed to work for that. So continue does not terminate your loop. It just goes up and executes the next iteration, whereas break terminates the loop, right? Now, the last thing about the loops, we use else with if to tell that if the condition is false, do this thing. We can also use else with loops. So yes, you can have else with loop like you've written for a in range 3, and then you have some statements, and then you have else. So this else is executed when the loop gets over. So if I have print a and over here I write print thank you, something like this. So it will print 0, 1, 2, and then it will print thank you, right? So very rarely we need this thing, but it is possible to give else with for loop as well as while loop. So if you give else with the loop, so the else part is executed when the loop gets over. Now the catch over here is if you have break statement inside the loop. So be it for, be it while, if you have a break statement inside the loop and you have given else, so if it breaks, then else part is not executed. Else part is executed only when all the iterations are complete. So after that, it will execute the else part. But if it breaks the loop, else part is ignored. So if the loop exits because of the break statement, else part will not be executed, right? Otherwise, it is executed. A very simple example of this is to check if a number is prime or not. Let's say you have a number, you have taken a number from the user to check if it is prime or not. And I have a variable for a in range. I know that a number is divisible by 1 in itself. So I want to check from 2 to num minus 1. I check if num mod a is equal to 0. That means it has got a factor. It has got a factor means it's not a prime number. So I can print not a prime number and I break. And then else is with the for, not with the if. This else is with the for, where I can print that number is prime. So now what happens? Let's say I give 13 as input. So 13 means 2 comma 13. 13 divisible by 2, no. 13 by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It was not divisible anywhere by any of the numbers. So it goes to else and prints number is prime. But if I enter 15, so it checks 15 mod 2 equal to 0, no. It becomes 3, 15 mod 3 equal to 0. Yes, it prints not a prime number, break, and break will take it out here. It will not go to the else part. That is how else is used with loops, right? So number of things in this video. So even if you need, you can watch the video twice to understand all the concepts properly. Very soon we will be starting with the output questions based on this, and MCQ series will be coming up on the channel. So you can practice the MCQs, which will be having multiple choice questions based on the basic programming concepts. So that will help you to make it firm in your mind, like what concepts are and how do you use it, where do you use it. So that is it for today. I hope the video was useful. You understood the concept well. And like the video before you go, share the channel with maximum people so that it can reach to as many people as possible. Subscribe it, it's absolutely free. And I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take very good care of yourself. Bye for now.